What's going on, Gator Nation? Your boy Pat Young here for another episode of The Young and the Rowdies. Another week where we get to dive into college hoops, usually all revolving around Florida basketball. But this week, we have something a little special since we're coming into the first week of March Madness. I have a special guest. My friend Rob Dauster is popping in, and we're going to talk some. He's going to – actually, I didn't tell him, but I'm planning that he'll help me fill out my bracket. You know, have an expert. So if all else goes to fail, I can blame him. Someone's got to be the scapegoat. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, guys, thank you so much for the love that you continue to show me on this podcast. Ready to dive into this episode here. Let's go. March Madness. Here we go, baby. Rob, what's going on, man?
What is going on, Patrick? Thanks for that intro, man. You boosted my ego a little bit there. I needed it. It's been a long week.
Well, again, selfishly, I am boosting you up so you can try to give me the best picks for my bracket, which everybody selfishly wants. This is my first time, post-career that I'm going to be filling one out. So I'm really invested. This means a lot to me. So don't let me down. I will find you.
I mean, and you have a platform now too. There are people that listen to you. There are people that say, "Oh, this guy, he played big time college basketball. He played in the Final Four. He played pro ball. He's going to know what he's talking about." So the pressure's on you, man.
I don't know if I know necessarily as much as I should. I probably haven't been watching as many games, but I do know a little bit more. I make some educated guesses, and also I have some friends that can always help nudge me in the right direction. Anyways, the Florida Gators ended up getting a 10 seed taking on Virginia Tech. I'm not too sure what to expect for that upcoming game. Florida has dropped 3 of their last 4, 2 of those going to Tennessee. Still some issues that seems to be in the locker room. 2 of the players it's public news. Scotty Lewis and Tyree Appleby showed up late to shoot around, which is something that you would not think would happen around this time of the year. So we're hoping that there can be some maturity. At this point, you got to step up. It's survive and advance. The Hokies, they're not a great defensive team. Florida shoots pretty well from 3. Volume isn't necessarily the problem. It's the percentage. One stat that really was crazy to me, Colin Castleton has stepped in. He's been tremendous for us in the paint. Omar Payne, he's shooting around 77% from the field. He's taken 8 shots in the last 8 games. Two of those games were goose eggs, 0 shots. So it was one game he had 3 shots. So and he's playing, 15 to 20 minutes a game. It's like, the guy's shooting 77%. Run the floor, seal, duck, get my guy some shots. Trey Mann's been outstanding, but we need some consistency in the paint. Colin can't do everything on his own down there. Noah Locke, he's pretty much shown that he's pretty much just a shooter. Scotty Lewis has been so inconsistent for us coming off the bench. I really love Tyree Appleby. I was talking to Anthony DeRugia the other day, and I was like, man, I wish I could have had a point guard like that. That just looks to throw me pass the ball so much every time. But what do you see with this matchup coming up pretty soon?
I like how Scotty Wilbekin caught a stray there.
Scotty Wilbekin called a stray?
Yeah. I wish I could have had a better point guard. Oh, man. Wouldn't have to touch that about that.
No. I mean, my first 3 years, my 4th year was great with Scotty when he was at the helm doing his thing. But the first 3, I had Irvin Walker and Kenny Boynton, guys that were pretty much shoot first.
Oh, yeah.
Scotty Wilbekin was a fantastic guy for me.
So, I really feel for the guys on this roster, given everything that they've gone through, right? Like, I thought that this was going to be the year where they kind of stepped up and it was like, okay, Mike White's got this thing going. You're going to be a top 15 team. But then obviously, you lose the preseason SEC player of the year, and it's just hard to rebound from that. Now, you mentioned Trey Mann. Like, he's a guy that I thought has been really, really impressive this season. I think that he's probably looking at being an NBA draft pick at some point, and I didn't necessarily know if that was going to be true heading into the year. Like, he's really, really impressed me. It's going to be, I'll be curious to see how Virginia Tech comes out and plays in this, because they're coming off of before the ACC tournament started, they were in a pause for, I think it was 3 weeks. They had played 2 games basically in the month of February. And that's just so difficult to do, Patrick. I mean, you know this, when you're like stuck in a room and you don't get to work out for 3 weeks, like that can
Oh,
take away everything from you, from your legs, from your wind, your crispness, your sharpness, understanding like the togetherness as a team in terms of running offense. When you have to make the right rotation defensively, it messes everything up. So we'll see what happens with them. But I mean, they're a fun team to watch, man. You're gonna love watching them run offense. Their coach, Mike Young, is a guy that's just he's a brilliant offensive mind. They have a couple guys. Part of the reason I love watching them play is because Mike Young always has one guy that he has. You'll understand this reference. They basically run the Marshall Henderson offense, where he just
oh
runs
my
off of like
gosh.
triple screens and he's taking like 25 footers fading away from the basket, and he makes them. It's a kid named Jalen Cone. So I think that's where Mike stole that play from.
Really? He's a I'm surprised I haven't seen him yet. That is going to be impressive to watch. Yeah, Marshall Henderson. Oh man, he didn't care. It was like, I'm coming off these screens, I'm getting the ball, and it's going up. Like that is it. Point blank period. That was the mindset. So it's interesting. It's going to be interesting seeing another guy like that. What are you seeing with this? You know, if this Florida team, they're the only team to make it 4 consecutive years in the SEC to the NCAA tournament. Florida fans seem pretty skeptical still on Mike White. This year has been so challenging, not just with what happened with Keontae, but also just amid COVID, players testing positive for every team throughout the country. You know, especially when guys at this age are still kind of figuring out their why, their identity, etc. That stuff really has been challenging. But our fans are, you think the administration is going to take that into their perspective of, like, for Coach White with his, I think Coach White deserves to stay there for much longer. You know, this year was an outlier, so much adversity. He still continued to battle so much resilience, have so much resiliency and to fight that adversity. But I know Florida fans, they want blood. You know, they want to win the SEC. They want to. I mean, we beat Kentucky pretty well at Kentucky, which was always great. You know, I always love that. But what do you see?
I think it's hard to judge any coach, not just Mike White, but any coach in the country this year based off of what happened this year. I mean, you mentioned there was so much stuff that went on, and you can't just like gloss over the fact that their best player, the guy that we all thought was going to be the SEC player of the year,
Yeah,
is not playing this year.
right.
And if you have Keontae and Patrick, you know this, man, like he's perfect for what basketball is supposed to be in 2021. What is he, 6'5"? He can guard fours if you need him to. He can guard twos if you can need him to. He's a great defender. He makes threes. What was he averaging? Like 17 points a game?
Man, he's so athletic. He
Yeah.
makes it look so easy. He makes the game look so easy.
And you put him on this roster with a guy like Trey Mann playing the way that he's been playing, with shooters like the Appleby kid and Noah Locke, with Scotty Lewis alongside of him. All of a sudden, you have a ton of athleticism. You have a ton of length. You have all of the switchability. That's kind of the buzzword now.
Yeah.
Everybody's versatile. You can get up and down and transition the way that Mike White really wants to play. And you didn't have that chance to do it because of what happened to him. And I also don't think that you can overlook kind of the mental impact that comes with that. Like, I can't imagine what those kids were going through when, everybody was hurting for Keontae when he was in the hospital and no one was really sure what was going on there. Now, imagine if you were one of his teammates and you watched that happen to him. Like, it's impossible. And, I think Mike White said something where he was he down? They didn't practice for like 2 weeks after that. Some kids went home. So it was, there's a lot of contextual factors that you have to take in when talking about what Mike White has done this year. And despite all of that, Florida's a 7 seed.
Yeah.
Like, I think all things considered, they've had about as good of a season as you could hope for, given everything that they have gone through. So I understand the frustration. And honestly, like, if you are Mike White, you want a fan base that is going to be frustrated by finishing as a 7 seed. But I don't think that you can really criticize too heavily the job that he's done this year.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, you look at, there was a few games that we might shake our head at, looking at South Carolina at home that they lost to. South Carolina having a pretty abysmal year, undersized. They came into Gainesville and kicked our butts, as well as Missouri. on, well, we don't have any seniors, but what would have been our last home game, also came in and kicked our butts as well. And it's just some of those games like those that you just say like, gosh, we just beat West Virginia at West Virginia. They were number 10 team in the country. How do we eat the poison? Like what drink the poison? What happened where how did things not translate over? Because this, it seems like we're building momentum. I felt so bad because going into that Missouri game, that's after I did Scotty Lewis and Colin Castleton on the same day. And I'm like, oh yeah, we're gonna win. Yeah, the guys, they're locked in, they're focused. Then we dropped dropped 3 straight pretty much. I'm like, gosh, I spoke too soon. Man,
they're cutting you off from the team now. You're not going to be able to interview anybody else.
I know, right?
Like, you get the bad luck charm.
Is it me? But this is why we love college basketball. This is the time of the year where anything can happen. Florida comes away if they win this game. More than likely, they're going to be facing Ohio State, which is a program that has completely changed, turned around. They're being a 2 seed. Who would have saw that coming at the beginning of the year?
Yeah. Honestly, I think that's a pretty good matchup in the second round. If you can get past Virginia Tech, because I think that you can make the argument that the best player on the floor when Florida plays Ohio State is going to be Trey Mann. The Dwayne Washington for Ohio State is really good. He had 32 and 8 in the Big Ten tournament title game, and E.J. Liddell is probably their best player. He's like a 6'6" combo forward. He won back-to-back State Player of the Year awards in Illinois as a high schooler, and then he's kind of had a breakout year as a sophomore this season. He's been awesome, probably first team All Big Ten. Awesome. But I mean, Trey Mann is like, he can take games over. And Patrick, this, man. Like, if you're going to make a run in March, if you're going to pull an upset, you got to have a great point guard. And Trey Mann's the guy.
Would you compare him to someone like a Trey Young at this point, the way that he's playing?
I think, honestly, I think that if you want to look at the best case scenario, think about him as in someone like the role like Shabazz Napier played or Kemba Walker played. Like they're obviously different players in terms of what they can do, but in the sense that putting a team on his back and being able to carry him, like I'm sure that's something that he can do. Now, I'm not sitting here predicting that Florida is going to make it to the Final Four,
right?
But if you're in a position where you have a great lead guard, like that's what you look for.
Yeah,
all it takes is Trey Mann having 1-2 week stretch where he just goes bonkers, which is something that he's very capable of doing, and you can make a run. Now,
30 points in that game, that loss against Tennessee in the tournament. So he's definitely feeling himself. He definitely is on another level of count. It's just amazing what 1 year can do.
Mm-hmm.
That so many players in his situation, and Scotty alluded to it, that they come in being so highly touted, and they lack the humility to just say like, okay, I understand that I have this great opportunity in front of me. These projections, this X, Y, Z can happen, but I still need to learn. There's still someone that knows more than I do that can help me. No coach wants to hinder a player from achieving their dreams. The coach isn't telling you to just do this just because he doesn't want you to excel. But it's just crazy how Trey Mann couldn't break a screen last year or just remember the plays or whatever it may be. And Scotty Lewis, he was uncomfortable playing off of 2 feet. And now, Scotty's been, more inconsistent this year. He had COVID in the middle of the season, so that definitely affected him. But Trey Mann, look, it's a complete 360. The way that he was playing in high school is now kind of the guy that he is now. He gained 20 pounds of muscle, put the work in, and now it's no surprise. I mean, I don't know if he needs another year to even go to another level. But it's just awesome seeing what he's been able to do after a year of just discipline and work and just saying, you know what, coach, that first year was learning experience. I see how much I don't know. What can I do to get to that level that you and I both see that I can get, but you know how to help me get there better than I know how to get myself there. And I'm going to do it every single day. And it's just amazing to see that he took on that mindset and that he is there right now.
Let me ask you a question, Patrick. Yeah. So you were a really highly recruited guy as well, right? Yeah. And it wasn't, I guess one and done wasn't as pervasive when you first got to Florida, but like, how did you balance that with like that certain level of expectation without allowing any of that to get to your head? Because that cannot be an easy thing to be like, right. 16, 17, 18 years old and having
Oh yeah.
all of these famous coaches recruiting you and everybody in your hometown saying like, oh, you're the best player. You're going to play in the NBA, blah, 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 all this. Like, how do you balance that? How do you work through that mentally?
Man, I definitely wish I knew half of what I know now back then. And it's still something that I think about from time to time. Like, gosh, what if I would have left early? What if I would have left after my freshman or sophomore year or whatever it may be? I know maturity wise, I wasn't there, but it definitely affected so much, especially in the beginning, my relationship with my coaches, because I thought things were supposed to go a certain way. I didn't necessarily, you have the equation for frustration is a expectation of something to go a certain way, and then the reality that things actually don't match up, and then that equals frustration. I had an expectation that things were going to go a certain way, that I was going to be this guy, that guy, whatever it may be. Reality came. Vernon Macklin's in front of me, senior, way better than me, way smart, far smarter than me. I'm not listening to the coaches. I always have something back to say. I'm not being coachable. Coach Donovan had to sit me down and say, hey, man, like, you're not being who we thought you could be. So you either need to fix it or you need to transfer. And that was a reality check of like, gosh, man, like, this is not, I'm not representing my family. I'm not representing who I want to be as a person, as a man. And it wasn't just an overnight switch, but just that first initial reality check of like, gosh, I need to get my stuff together, helped me to like humble myself and like, dang, how can I be a better teammate? And then, there were still some times a roller coasters up and down, but I was able to become such a better player now that I could finally trust Coach Donovan. And it's dumb to say that, like, how could you not trust Coach Donovan? You won back-to-back, Joakim Noah, Al Horford, Chris Richards, Maurice Spates, all these other guys. He knows the formula. But that poison, and especially you got to think for these kids now that they're receiving so much pats on their back of family, of friends, of social media, of their value being given from what they do. And no one's there for you when you're in the gym after a game or you don't play and you're suffering, not suffering through, but the long endurance of becoming who you want to be. No one's you wasn't with me shooting in the gym, like those are the times that where the fans at then? Where are the people that are cheering? They only see the results. They only see what you can be. And it's a whole process to get there. People put the highlights on social media. They don't put the boring shooting 1,000 shots or form shooting. They don't put that's not exciting on social media. So it took me a while to handle all that, but I'm so glad that I had a family and coaches and teammates that could help me and bear with me, because I can imagine I was probably difficult to deal with for a time. I can imagine.
So I think that the hard thing, I think, is when you go up a level, accepting that you need to be something of a role player, right? Like if you're a high schooler and you're a McDonald's All-American, like you're going to be a superstar, the best player that anyone's going to play against, probably in that area, right? But when you get to Florida, like you said, you're coming in, you got Vernon Macklin there. That was the year he averaged like 15, right?
Probably.
Yeah. So like you're coming in and it's like, okay, well, now I got to beat out this guy that's 22, 23 years old, that was just as good as I was in high school, that has spent the last 3 years developing his game. And he's out here like killing everybody in the SEC already. So that's who you got to beat out. Like the idea that you have to go in and accept that that can't be an easy thing to do. But it's also, I think it's important for a lot of these kids to understand, like, that's how you end up getting to the next level. Like the guy that I'll make a comparison with here is Franz Wagner is probably like the fourth or fifth best known player on this Michigan team, but he's the guy that everyone in NBA draft circles like, yeah, we want him, because he just goes out there and does a job that is very translatable to the next level. There's only so many guys that are going to be KD or James Harden or whatever.
Right.
If you, like, for you, like if you would have just said, I'm going to go be Quincy Acey, like that's how you ended up being, like that's why Quincy Acey's got a job. That's why you played as long as you did professionally, right? Like there's kind of have to like accept that you're there to do a job,
Yeah, you're so right. Just it's hard for people to accept that. Like a really good role player is making $20 million a year. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But
Hey, look, I'll do whatever you want me to do for $20 million a year.
you put me on, I'll be the cheerleader for, you put me 14th man on the roster for $2-3 million a year. Absolutely. But just to make it there, doing the things, because these analytics are so huge nowadays when it comes to that front office. And it's not so much because, you look at the G League, for example, and you see that oftentimes a lot of guys are out there just trying to get it done themselves and score and get up volume shots and et cetera. And a lot of guys don't get called up. These teams already have their superstars. They already have their 2 to 3 players that are their guys that are, getting all the shots. They need guys that can fill in and contribute to winning without the ball. So if you're on a team where, all you can do is contribute to winning when you have the ball in your hands, reality check, you're not playing over Kevin Durant. You're not playing over Russell Westbrook. You're not playing over Kemba Walker. You're not playing over any of these guys. So how can I humble myself to find the role? Can I be the best? Can I take pride in being the guy that locks down one of those guys, tries to? I mean, you can't lock down Kevin Durant. It's not, or Giannis Antetokounmpo. It's crazy. You play with those guys on 2K, and you're like, what do I do? I'm like, that's exactly what NBA players are saying when these guys, like, what do I do? I can't guard that. Exactly.
You just hope that they miss. That's all it is.
Just hope. Giannis freaking reaches from the free throw line and dunks on your head.
Yeah.
What do you do? It's not fair. But yeah, man, it's a humbling process to accept, I guess, from being, because everybody in the NBA was the man at some point. But only a few guys are LeBron and Kevin Durant and Kawhi Leonard and Luka Doncic. There's nothing wrong with being that role player, because guess what? You're in the NBA. And
if you're a role player as a starter in the NBA, it means you are one of the best 150 people on the planet at doing your job, at being a basketball player.
Absolutely.
One of the best 150 on the planet. Do you know how many people there are in the world that play basketball, and you're one of the best 150? Like, if you are on an NBA roster, you are an unbelievably special talent. You get drafted, you're an unbelievably special talent. I don't think people realize how good and how much talent is in like the G League or is playing in the leagues overseas. It's the level between like just outside the NBA and in the NBA. Like, there's really not that much different in talent level. It's like, did you find the right shot? Did you find the right spot? Did you get lucky? Did you accept the role?
You talk about the last, the 150, maybe, the last 30 guys out of that 150 could possibly be interchangeable with some of these guys in Europe or in the G League. But, they got a better break. They got the right spot, the right fit, the right person likes them, and they good character guys. All that stuff adds up. They know their role. And, once you stick in the NBA for 2 to 3 years, it's usually hard to find a way out unless you do something stupid. Oh, man. But Rob, let's get into this tournament a little bit, man. I want to ask you some questions since you know this way better than I do.
All right.
First off, we got the first round coming up on Thursday. What are some games that stand out to you, or some Cinderella picks? Something that you just, bold prediction you got.
So I'm gonna give you a couple of upset picks. All right. Okay. So first and foremost, we have Ohio over Virginia. Ohio's got a point guard, a kid from Orlando, actually, named Jason Preston, who I think is going to end up playing in the NBA one day. Virginia's coming out of their COVID pause. They got some issues going on. They're not going to be able to practice this week. So I like Ohio there. I also like UC Santa Barbara. We talked about having great point guards. They got a kid named Ja'Cory McLaughlin who started at Oregon State. He's averaging like 17-5. And Santa Barbara has they just got a whole bunch of high major transfers on that roster. They're really, really good. And then the other one, obviously you have to take Syracuse, because all Syracuse does is they go out and they struggle during the regular season. They find their way onto the bubble. They somehow sneak into the NCAA tournament, and then they make a run and they go to like the Elite Eight or the Final Four. Like, that's Jim Boeheim's whole plan. He's like, we'll just find a way in, and then no one knows how to play against the zone, and we'll make a run and we'll win some games. And then here's the last one I'll give you. The upset pick that you don't want to take. Don't fall into the trap. Villanova is going to beat Winthrop. Everybody loves Winthrop. They're 23-1. They have some fun players. They shoot a lot of threes. They get up and down the floor. They score a ton of points. Villanova doesn't have their point guard, but they still got a kid named Jeremiah Robinson Earl who's going to play in the league. They got Jermaine Samuels. They got athletes. They got defenders. They got shooters. And you're giving Jay Wright 9 days to figure out what's wrong with this team and how to find a way to make up for the fact he doesn't have it. Jay Wright, he's won 2 national titles. So
Yeah.
I'm taking Villanova there. Don't fall in the trap. Don't be the guy.
Don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy.
I really like this. Find that matchup. UNC Greensboro. I don't think they're going to beat Florida State, but I think it's going to be a good game.
I see what you're doing there.
I wouldn't be mad. I wouldn't be mad if.
Look, UNC Greensboro, they got a kid named Isaiah Miller. Like he is. If you guys are listening to this, go search Isaiah Miller on YouTube and watch some of his highlights. I mean, he is a windmill waiting to happen. He averaged 19 points and 4 assists this year. I'll tell you this much. If he transferred to Florida State right now, he'd be starting on that team.
He'd be starting.
Yeah,
you see this guy potentially making it to the league. I mean, coming off this game, if he does something like you mentioned, Trey Mann being a guy that you would want on your back, a guy that can come in and just average 19 a game. You would think Leonard Hamilton, he's always got athletes there that they're going to do the best they can to try and minimize that. But if he does find a rhythm, watch out.
Is that your upset pick right there? You got Florida going down. I feel like Florida State could be playing anybody there, and you'd be like, yeah, you know what? That might be the upset pick you want to take.
That might be the upset pick. I know. But let's talk about some of these SEC teams as far as the ones that have made it into the tournament. No Kentucky.
I like Alabama. They can really guard people. Everyone talks about their 3-point shooting and their offense and all that. They are the number 2 defense in college basketball on campus.
Wow.
They can really, really guard. I mean, Herb Jones is just he guards everybody. He can guard anything. John Petty's better than people give him credit for. And they just got a bunch of guys that are like 6'6" and long and athletic that can go out to run around and play hard. I mean, the big thing is they play hard on that end. That's half the battle. LSU, though, I think LSU can make
Look
a run.
Look at them, man.
Look, you have Cam Thomas, you have Trendon Watford, you have Javonte Smart. There's not many teams that have a better 1, 2, 3 than that. And throw in the fact that Michigan's missing is likely going to be missing Isaiah Livers, and I think that that's good for LSU. They can make a run there. And Tennessee, I don't know. Every time I feel like it's time to buy into Tennessee, they go and they lose them.
Right?
I don't know.
I don't know.
They have all the pieces. They just haven't been able to put them all together.
And they were most of everyone's preseason pick to win the SEC. That was pretty surprising that they've, kind of fell flat. That's why they're preseason picks. It doesn't matter until you step onto the court and play. But yeah, this LSU, Cam Thomas, man, freshman. Whoo.
Yeah.
He can go.
He gets them up. I'll tell you this much. There's a lot of games where he makes a lot of shots. There's also a lot of games where he takes a lot of shots.
Yeah.
Kind of have to respect the willingness to get him up, but if he's not shooting well, he's one of those guys that could shoot you into a game or shoot you out of a game, and it's just so happened that he's been able to shoot him in the game better than in the past. But I mean, look, when you average 20-something points as a freshman in the SEC, that kind of says all you need to know about him, right?
Yeah. Well, Rob, I know you got to go. Last question is a quick one. Who you got winning it all, or who do you got in the championship game, and then who's going to get on top?
So my final 4 is I have Gonzaga coming out of the West. I have Texas coming out of the East. I have Baylor coming out of the South, and I have Oklahoma State and Cade Cunningham coming out of the Midwest. And then the title game, I think, will be Gonzaga and Baylor, and I think Gonzaga wins. My bold prediction, Patrick, are you ready for this? My bold prediction is that Gonzaga wins the national title, and they don't play a single game that ends in single digits. They run out. They're awesome.
They're that good.
They're so good.
They're playing another sport this year. They truly are. They truly are. I'm really, really excited for their coach and their program. Hopefully they can hang a banner for the first time ever.
Well,
Rob, I want to thank you so much for your time. I know you got other things to do, more college basketball to talk about. This was an awesome, quick episode as we launch into March Madness. It's time, baby. It's time to get it going. It's time to see some Cinderella stories, some upsets, and all that comes in between that. But anyways, everyone, thank you so much again for your time. Please continue to share this podcast. We're going to continue bringing you content. Thank you again to the Field of 68 Media Network. Such a blessing. The timing is perfect. follow your favorite team, as one of the former players will be talking about everything that's going on with them and the former players and coaches that have gone through their program. But anyways, everyone, thank you again so much. Gator Nation, stay rowdy.